Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we're going to be taking an in-depth look at my brand new helicopter, the Ray RX-318. It is a tandem rotor helicopter much like a Chinook, and it has a ton of features. Now I'm very proud of the features, and hopefully this video can showcase that to everybody, as well as maybe teach you of some of the things. Now before I get started, yes, it is inspired by a Chinook. No, it's not a Chinook. Yes, it could be longer or more slender, but these dimensions are pretty much cast so that you can fit cars in the back. Now I'm not talking about small cars, I'm talking about pretty large SUVs and trucks. So that was something that was a constraint of mine. Now with that said, in a real life Chinook it would be a little more slender, just because the cars in Stormworks are not really a one-to-one representation of what we have in real life. But that's okay. So I only was inspired by the Chinook. It is not a Chinook. It has a lot of different features. Now you can see here, I have these kind of containers, this cargo stuff. Well, the helicopter has a brand new system that can actually use these types of cargo and also deploy them. Some of them come with parachutes. Then you'll have cars such as this, and I even believe this, and over there. Slowly I'm starting to develop these connectors on the bottom of all my cars, but if you find that it does have the R10 system, and you'll find that by hovering over the trailer hitch. So if you find that it does have the R10 system, that means it's compatible and you can drive right up. So you can see here it says release trailer hitch and R10 bottom connectors, so that would release the guys on the bottom. Now I'd like to think this quite neat, but pretty much inside this helicopter you have a series of different connectors. So the green ones here and here are your vehicle connectors. So you can see here R10 vehicle, and it's green. If you turn on the boat, then you have one over here. So if you do want to carry a rib, for example, you can do that as well. Then you have these other two, a red and pink one. Pink one is here for the H4 system is what I call it, which includes those containers. And then there's a red one over here, which includes this container. So that is something that you'll find in the back of the helicopter. I did add some more seating, that was a request. Then we have here the rear camera display, as well as the ability to open and close the cargo hatch. Now you can't see anything because we are deployed on the ground, but if you're hovering, then there's a camera on the underside of this, and it shows the ground, so you can know what you're jumping into. Then you can see above here, we actually have a crane system. So that crane system is kind of like an overhead crane that you could deploy right here. So you could enable it, and it allows you to track in and out, and this allows you to pick cargo up. So those little cargo things I showed you, well, you could use this system to pick it up if you don't want to drive it in, or if you don't have one of the carrier forklifts or equipment. So we have that. It has winches, and it has this pusher mechanism, good for pushing cars or containers out of the back if you're trying to deploy them. So that's what the pusher is for. Then we have a bunch of equipment, including ropes, including first aid. Here I added some diving gear, as well as underwater welders. And here we have an armory that if you type in the code, which is found right over here, then you can open it up and get some weapons. Then you have a console here that allows you to open this floor hatch and drop things out with these winches. And you can see here that it allows you to toggle the various winches. Now you have two winches here. One is this cargo winch that you can see now, kind of the crane is in the way, so I'm going to move it. So there's two winches here. The one that's plugged in right there is the cargo winch, so you could plug it into this thing, and this thing you can then deploy. So that's the point of this. And then what you have, and that actually has a magall that you could toggle. So you see here cargo attachment, and now we've toggled the magall. And then here we have this harness, so you can actually use that as well. So if you're inside the harness for the controller, you can press 1 and 2 to move the harness in and out, which is nice if you're trying to rescue people by yourself. So we have those features, and now the harness itself, you have to make sure you are in the controller harness, mind you. But when you are in here, you could also open that door. So you can see here we just closed it by pressing 3 and all that good stuff. So it allows you to open and toggle the attachment on the harness. On the exterior of the helicopter, you could climb up these ladders here and make your way to the roof if you have to repair something. Just don't be up here while the rotor blades are spinning. And then a system that I'm quite proud of is this quick connect for the vehicles. So if this is enabled, and if your R10 vehicle connectors active is enabled, what it does is allows you to drive right in to the helicopter. It disables this back connector when something is blocking the way, just like that. And that way it doesn't ping and connect the front connector of your truck to the back connector of the helicopter. So as long as that button's on, you're able to drive in. And as long as you kind of get a nice straight shot, you got to also clear those seats. It'll connect to the front and it'll connect to the back. So there you have it. Now you've attached a vehicle into the helicopter. Now this particular GTC G1 actually comes with a parachute. So this is intended to fully be deployed. And if you're flying and drop it out of the back with this key turned on, then the helicopter will drop this load and the parachute will deploy. For a little test, here we are floating above the base. So what I'm going to do is disable this, and then using the pusher, shove the truck out of the cargo bay. And if it falls like that, hopefully the parachute turns on. There we go. Alright. And it may kind of crash down hard, but regardless, there you have it. One thing you'll want to do in this case, just make sure the vehicle falls out as fast as possible. Otherwise, the helicopter will list or tilt kind of unnaturally. And by doing so, the autopilot hold won't be able to do anything. Like your helicopter will do this, and it will start to drop real fast. So you got to make sure whatever cargo you have comes out very fast. So that was a neat little test. There we have it. Our Hummer or G1 is back on the ground. So that worked. And then one thing I want to try is the container system. So you can see here we have a bunch of these containers. So we have a couple of options. Yes, you can actually drive the container right into the back with one of these, which is a rat loader with the container Unicon is what I call the system, Unicon system. So you see here, Unicon UTACH 1, and that's the size. So as long as you have this, you are able to lift up any one of these containers, and then you can bring it up and into the back of the helicopter. So just keep in mind with doing so, first you have to move this one out of the way, but not just that, we have to actually move the pusher tool here, and you have to enable the slots. So now we have the forward slot, and I could push this in. Technically, I don't have to bring it back into its housing, but it's always good practice to make sure that the grippers have it locked so it can't start moving. And now with that pink one on, we can make our way into here and drive it right in and lower it, and as soon as it's in its place, it kind of snaps in. Okay, so then we just have to see and press number 3, that releases the Unicon, and we could drive right out. So that in essence is the way to do this. Now you can see that we kind of connected to this our trailer, which we don't want to do now, so we can take that off. But one thing I do want to do is position this other connector or other cargo container roughly in this area. So let's say it's here somewhere. So with that being there, you can now use the crane system to actually put the container in. So you don't have to use the loader like I just did. You can actually open both of these, and I'm just holding Q and E on both of these. And once that's out as far as possible over there, we can make our way to the ropes, which are right here. Grab some ropes and plug them into these winches. So we'll put one there, and we'll put one with the farther of the two right here. And the second one, we'll need to do the same thing with the closer winch and the closer winch. Now when that's connected, sure, you could turn on the rear connector and then winch up. So just watch what happens over there. We're going to be winching up, and slowly that system is going to pull that whole container up, which is exactly where we need it to be, so we could then bring it into the back of the helicopter. So this isn't something you'll find in a normal Chinook, but what I do like about this system is that it lets you use these kind of universal containers, there you have it, to mount these containers inside. And I've been developing a lot of different ones, including one that has a large winch for pulling things up, including one where you could actually drive a quad with that front hardpoint, or the golf cart with that rear hardpoint onto this. Just make sure you have the bottom mag all on, and once that's on, you can hop into one of these, and we'll just drive it right into the little docking system. Alright, and now it acts just like a regular cargo, so you can come as long as you have the bottom mag all released. That is quite important. Once that's released, then you can come and grab this, for example, and take it and pick up that container. Now, yes, it can only be picked up from the one side, so you're out of luck if you're trying to pick it up from the back, but nonetheless, on this side here, you'll have the ability. So it just lets you really utilize such a modular system. I've been working quite hard to get us a nice modular system that allows us to kind of move a variety of things. Now keep in mind, yeah, that's a little heavy, so you would need a bigger loader or just have it dragging on the ground, but regardless, it gives you that ability. So whether it's a car, whether it's a container, whether you're transporting people, whatever, the helicopter does have a lot of functionality here in the back. As for the cockpit, if you're familiar with the 118, then you're going to find this quite similar. It is intentionally similar. All my systems are kind of ones I developed. Yes, this one has air-to-air refueling. You can see the arm extends there. And it also has some other features that the 118 does not have, but pretty much you have pilot and co-pilot seats. You have your engine power, and then once the RPS is up to here, which is around 14, I believe, you could kick on the rotors, and then it kind of drops, but then you can get lift quite soon. So you have the radar function. This here allows you to rotate cameras. Not all of them have the ability to move. So this one, for example, you cannot zoom, but you can move it. The ones inside the cargo bay, you can't zoom or move. The one in the front, you can do all the things, including night vision, including positioning and zooming, and that is the camera that you get access to when you look through the viewing scope here. So that gives you a nice clear view of whatever you're trying to look at. You have a radio there, you have the password to the armory, keep that in mind. You can open and close the cargo hatch, you can give red or green light for people who are parachuting out. So that allows you to control that. Over here are all our lights, including our heaters, but pretty much when everything is turned on, you'll find that it is pretty bright. So it allows you to have a lot of decent light. We have the landing gear retract, and we have a heavy lift mode that actually turns our RPS up. Now, it starts to burn more gas, and the downside is if you're at capacity, that's not really going to help you at all. So if it doesn't give you more lifting capacity, it just gives you faster response time for trying to lift the load that you could lift anyways. As I said in the beginning of this video, a lot of people have commented saying that it looks too stubby or otherwise not right. So if I'm in the mood one day, I may make a larger version and a more powerful version. You can see these two jets it has here are actually fake. They don't do anything. So maybe I make one with a proper dual jet configuration that could lift more, but for the purposes of this helicopter, I found this system worked quite nicely. We have our beacon locator, we have a bunch of things here, including pitch override. Now, why do we have that? Well, let me tell you. So say you want to turn on heading hold. I'd also recommend you turn on altitude hold. Then what you could do is you could turn your pitch up, press this button, and your helicopter will start to move forward at pretty much its top speed. It's going to slowly speed up. I think it goes around 60 knots, a little more than that. But regardless, now, I'm not holding anything. I'm not pressing WASD. I'm not pressing the arrow keys. The helicopter is just kind of rolling by itself. Now, yes, I used to have an autopilot where you could actually mark off things on the map, but I opted for the hold heading system just because for me that's a little more straightforward, especially if you know where you're trying to go. It just prevents the helicopter from swaying in the wind. The autopilot it used to have wasn't a very clear autopilot in a sense that it would have you'd mark off where you want to go, but then it would kind of overshoot it and whatever. So this way you still have to kind of keep track of what's going on. So that's where this activation or pitch override lives. If you turn it off, obviously your helicopter will not be pitching, so then you could manually apply pitch and all that stuff. It's still going to keep holding your heading. Now we have buzzers and we have radar. So that pretty much sums up the interior functions. I'm sure I missed something, but overall that's kind of what we have. It's a very, very versatile system. It allows a lot of different types of missions, allows a lot of people, different types of cargoes, and honestly I'm very happy with it for kind of a medium-sized build, let's call it. I mean, I wouldn't call this a large build, but I wouldn't call it small either. For a medium build, it turned out working very nicely. Now keep in mind one more thing. The underside here actually has these H4 connectors. So what that means is I may be making a ship in the future that actually could have this land on it. So that'd be quite nice to be able to actually deploy this to and from a ship. A little fun behind the scenes snippet. This is something I'm currently working on to have a OMA helipad. So this is something that's probably going to be an add-on that I'll put around the map. And here it has the H4 connectors. So you actually could land your helicopter here and prevent it from moving away or flying away if it's heavy winds or whatever. So this is something, obviously the building is similar to the one from the Alta depot, but I do have some plans for changing it, for working on this, for adding some container support and other equipment. And of course it goes hand in hand with my OMA hangar. This is something else that I've been working on that I started to redevelop, so I'll see if I make videos about it, otherwise if I just make it kind of on my own fun time. But it is something that I just find looks very aesthetic, whether for photos or for missions, just to kind of have it around. So thank you all for watching. The boosters on my server and my YouTube community members are going to get early access to this helicopter. The rest of you are going to get it when it gets released, hopefully soon. But thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for more creations, content, all kinds of good stuff. So see you next time, and happy Stormworksing, everyone.